In September of 1943, the United States Marine Corps gave a problem to a man who was himself something of a problem. The instruction was simple: build a fighter squadron from available replacement pilots. The available replacement pilots were the ones nobody else had claimed. Men passed over by other squadrons, men who had been too difficult to fit into established units, men waiting in the replacement pool because their paperwork had been lost or their reputations had preceded them in the wrong direction. The man given this assignment was Major Gregory Boyington. He was 30 years old. He was not, by the standards of the United States military, a model officer. He had a reputation for brilliance that was matched almost perfectly by a reputation for recklessness, for drinking, for debt, and for telling his commanding officers things they did not want to hear. He called his new squadron cheerfully the Black Sheep. In 84 days of combat, the Black Sheep would destroy more Japanese aircraft than almost any other fighter unit in the Pacific. Gregory Boyington was born on the 4th of December, 1912, in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. His early life was unsettled. His parents separated when he was young. He was raised largely by his mother and stepfather. He was a natural athlete, strong, physically fearless, competitive in everything, and he won a wrestling scholarship to the University of Washington, where he studied aeronautical engineering. He graduated in 1934 and joined the Marine Corps, earning his wings in 1936. He was a gifted pilot from his first solo flight, quick to respond, precise in the air, with the physical coordination that marks the best fighter pilots and the aggressive instinct for closing with an enemy that no training can entirely manufacture. He was also, from early on, a drinker. In the culture of military aviation between the wars, this was not unusual. What was unusual was the scale of it. Boyington drank with the dedication he brought to flying, comprehensively, persistently, with a kind of professional expertise. Cost him 2 marriages. Cost him promotions. Shadowed his entire career. In 1941, facing a court-martial for accumulated debts and AWOL charges, he resigned his commission and joined the American volunteer group, the Flying Tigers, fighting for the Chinese government under General Claire Chennault. The Flying Tigers have a celebrated history, and Boyington's place in it is complicated. He claimed, later, 6 aerial victories with the AVG. The official records credited him with 3.5 confirmed kills. The dispute was never entirely resolved. Boyington and Chennault clashed repeatedly. Their personalities, both strong, both convinced of their own rightness, were poorly compatible in a small, isolated command environment. By the summer of 1942, the AVG had been absorbed into the U.S. Army Air Forces, and Boyington, not eligible for the absorption because he was Marine Corps, found himself without a command, without a commission, and without money on the wrong side of the world. He made his way back to the United States and walked into Marine Corps headquarters in Washington. He applied for reinstatement. The Marine Corps, after considerable deliberation, took him back. He was a major. He had a gift for aerial combat that the country needed. Whatever else he was, it outweighed the rest. For a while, at least. In the summer of 1943, Boyington was in the Solomon Islands, assigned to Marine Air Group 11 at Espiritu Santo, waiting for an assignment. The assignment came in September, in the form of 30 or so replacement pilots who had been sitting in the pool for weeks. They were not problem pilots, most of them. They were simply new or overlooked or not yet slotted into a unit. But they were available, and Boyington was available, and someone put them together. Boyington named them VMF 214. He called them the Black Sheep publicly because the name suited the image, a squadron of outcasts, the ones nobody wanted, and privately because it made for good press coverage, which he was shrewd enough to understand mattered to morale. His approach to leadership was direct to the point of shock. He told his pilots that the job was to kill Japanese aircraft. Not to fly in formation, not to protect bombers, to kill Japanese aircraft. The metrics were simple. More kills, more victories, faster end to the war. He flew with them as often as regulations and aircraft availability allowed. He did not hold back in the cockpit. He did not ask of them what he would not do himself. They responded. From the 12th of September to the 3rd of January, 1944, 84 days VMF 214 operated from airstrips on Munda and Vella La Vella, flying combat missions over the Solomon Islands and up toward Rabaul, the major Japanese base on the island of New Britain. The numbers the Black Sheep produced in those 84 days are extraordinary by any standard of the Pacific Air War. The squadron flew 84 combat missions. They destroyed 97 Japanese aircraft in the air, fighters, bombers, float planes, plus numerous others destroyed on the ground. They lost 12 pilots in combat. They earned 16 Navy Crosses and 12 Distinguished Flying Crosses. Boyington himself flew every mission the aircraft availability and the weather allowed. His personal score climbed through the autumn. 21 confirmed kills by late November, closing in on the Pacific Marine record of 24 held by Joe Foss. On the 3rd of January 1944, Boyington led a fighter sweep over Rabaul. It was a massive operation, over 80 American aircraft from multiple units, attacking one of the most heavily defended Japanese installations in the South Pacific. Rabaul had hundreds of fighters based around it. Anti-aircraft defenses ringed the harbor. In the ensuing aerial battle, Boyington shot down 3 aircraft in rapid succession, bringing his confirmed total to 28. Then his aircraft was hit. He bailed out over the harbor. His parachute opened. He came down into the water. He was wounded, hit in the arm and leg. He inflated his life vest and floated in Rabaul Harbor for 12 hours, watching American aircraft search for him, unable to signal them. At some point in those 12 hours, a Japanese submarine surfaced nearby. The submarine crew pulled him from the water. For 20 months, Pappy Boyington was a prisoner of the Japanese. He was held at several camps, including Ofuna, a secret interrogation facility outside Yokohama that the Japanese officially denied existed, where prisoners received no Red Cross protections and were subjected to sustained physical abuse and malnourishment. The Marine Corps, not knowing whether he was dead or alive, awarded him the Medal of Honor posthumously in the spring of 1944. His mother accepted the medal at a ceremony in Washington. He was alive. He was being beaten, starved, and interrogated in a facility the world would not know about until the war ended. He survived because he had a constitution that had survived everything else he had put it through, and because somewhere under the alcohol and the recklessness and the court-martials and the debts, there was a man made of something very difficult to break. When Ofuna was liberated by American forces in late August 1945, Boyington was among the prisoners. He weighed around 150 pounds, 40 less than his normal weight. He was suffering from the accumulated effects of 20 months of inadequate food and multiple bouts of physical abuse. He was flown to Guam for medical treatment, then back to the United States for a hero's welcome that he found overwhelming and, he said later, very difficult to connect to anything he recognized in himself. The Marine Corps gave him his Medal of Honor in person. The first one given officially had been presented to his mother when they thought he was dead. There was some awkwardness about this. There always is when the posthumous becomes the returned. He was promoted to lieutenant colonel. He was discharged from the Marine Corps in 1947. The years after the war were hard. He wrote his memoir Black Sheep in 1958. It was direct, self-aware, and in places brutally honest about his failings. It became a significant commercial success. He continued to drink. In 1976, a television series based on his life and on the exploits of his squadron began airing on NBC. It starred Robert Conrad as Boyington and ran for 2 seasons. It was enormously popular, watched by tens of millions of Americans, and it created or revived an awareness of Boyington and the Black Sheep that persists to this day. Boyington himself served as a consultant on the series, and his relationship with it was characteristically complicated. He was pleased by the attention, proud of his men being celebrated, and uncomfortable with the degree of dramatization. He died on the 11th of January, 1988, in Fresno, California. He was 75 years old. He had been suffering from cancer. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery, where the headstone carries his rank, his decorations, and the dates of his life. It does not say much about the 84 days. But in the Pacific Aviation Museums, in the archives of Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, in the bar stories of the old men who flew with him and outlived him by decades, the 84 days are remembered very precisely. A squadron of misfits. A squadron commander with a court-martial record and a drinking problem and 28 kills. 84 days over the Solomons, and a sky full of Japanese aircraft that the Black Sheep went after without hesitation, without apology, and without looking back. If this story moved you, subscribe to follow the Untold Front. New stories every week.